Thank you very much. Monsieur le Président Macron, again go.
President Macron, Prime Minister, Director General. Director General, again, I'd like to congratulate you on your election. The report of the International Commission on the Futures of Education, which I had the honor of chairing, as you've recalled, calls on all of us, representatives of governors, development partners, civil societies, citizens around the world, to work together to establish a new social contract for education. This new social contract for education must remain firmly anchored in commitment to human rights. It has to be founded on education as a fundamental human right and a common public good. We know that notwithstanding the progress achieved in access to education in recent decades, access to quality education remains incomplete. Even before the pandemic, exclusion in terms of education was very clear. It concerns all those who are vulnerable, but it is even more so in low-income countries. One youth out of four in poor countries, more than one woman out of five is illiterate. More than one child in five is still not going to school, to primary education, and 3 teenagers out of 5 are not in secondary education. Over half of the pupils in the later classes of secondary education do not complete a full cycle of education. This exclusion from education, this drastic loss of the human capital among youth is unacceptable, and this exclusion continues notwithstanding the commitments made in 2015 to guarantee universal access to free primary and secondary education and equitable quality education by 2030. Present in terms of access, participation and results in education, these results are the same exclusion results as yesterday. We have to remedy this injustice. We need to re-examine the provisions that have been made that have given rise to these asymmetries and inequalities.
The choices we collectively make today will determine our shared futures. We need to transform education. We need a social contract for education that can repair exclusions inherited from the past. But we also need a new social contract that can shape just, inclusive, and sustainable futures in the face of the climate crisis and technological disruption. Catalyzing a new social contract for education requires renewed commitment to global solidarity and international cooperation. All educational stakeholders must work together at global and regional levels to generate shared purposes and common solutions to educational challenges. Participation must include diverse non-state actors and partnerships. Our approach must move away from top-down towards multi-centric action. We must embrace new forms of regional cooperation, especially South-South and triangular cooperation. International development financing for low and lower middle-income countries remains important. This applies particularly to countries with sharply constrained economies and very large young populations, especially in Africa. Financing needs to target populations whose right to education is disproportionately disrupted by crises and emergencies. Finally, effective international cooperation requires common investments in evidence, data, and knowledge. More than ever, we need to strengthen mutual learning and exchange of knowledge across societies and borders, both to address educational inequality and to meet the longer-term challenges arising from the environmental crisis, migration, and the technological transformations affecting all of our societies. An agenda for global solidarity and action must be built with tenacity, boldness, and coherence, looking at 2030 and beyond. It implies shared responsibility, enhanced accountability, and improved coordination at all levels to transform education. We have no time left to squander. We must work together now to transform education for today's youth, and education that can ensure peaceful, just, and sustainable futures for humanity and the planet. I thank you.